Hello ladies and gentlemen, Nick here and welcome back to the third and final third of my Doctor Who 39 season ranking, though this will probably be over the last two parts, 5 and 6, as they will each cover the last third, as we'll do 7 and then 6 seasons together. So in this part it will be numbers 13 through 7, and then the last one will be the top 6. This means that between the two of these videos we are covering the top 13 seasons of Doctor Who. It's been an interesting list so far, and every Doctor apart from Christopher Eccleston has had at least one season on the list so far, and out of those 11, because we're not covering the 8th Doctor besides the honourable mention, but out of the other 11 Doctors, 4 of them have had their whole eras complete, well, besides 2 episodes for the First Doctor and 1 for the 6th Doctor. But we completed the First Doctor's era besides his last 2 stories, the 6th Doctor's era besides his first story, and the whole of the 12th and 13th Doctor's era. We have also recently just started the 2nd and 10th Doctor's era with the first of their series on this list. We're halfway through 4s, we've done quite a lot of 3, and we've done 1 of 7, we've done most of 5, 2 out of 3, and we've done 2 out of 3 of 11 as well. And like I said, 9 still has to have his first and only series on here as well. So, without further ado, the top 13 Doctor Who seasons of all time so far at time recording, also on the 14th of May 2023, just like the last 2 parts, the last third. Let's begin with number 13. Now, parts 1 and 2 of this ranking, the first third, were very 80s heavy. There was a lot of 80s seasons, and I believe there weren't any, or not many, during the 3rd and 4th parts of this ranking, the 2nd, 3rd. We have now jumped to the next 80s season. There's like 3 left, I think. Seasons 21 for the 5th Doctor, and 25 and 26 for the 7th Doctor, and I think it's about time that I showed the 80s some more love, specifically Love, because I've done most of their seasons already in the bottom 13, sadly. Even though 1 did come close to being in middle 13 territory, but just missed out. So I think it's about time we kept calm and learned how to love 80s Doctor Who. And we start off with our final 3 80s seasons with Season 21. Peter Davison's 3rd and final season as the 5th Doctor, with also Colin Baker's first story as the 6th Doctor at the very end. Which, I will say now, is the worst story of the season. Twin Dilemmas sucks. It's not the worst story ever made, but it sucks. Also, Warriors of the Deep here doesn't get a very good reputation either. In fact, that probably gets an almost as bad one. Well, almost as bad, yeah. Emphasis on the almost. I mean, it's very, very unpopular, but Twin Dilemma is considered the worst story of all time as well, even if this one is, like, usually considered bottom 10. In fact, if you had a list of the worst stories of Doctor Who, the top 10 worst stories, this would almost guarantee be in most fans' lists, unless they're Major Chibnall Whittaker haters. But other than them, this is almost guaranteed in the top 10. Twin Dilemma is almost guaranteed top 3. But I actually think Warriors of the Deep is a bit of a guilty pleasure for me as well, more so than Time Flight. I actually quite enjoy this. Most of the, again, victim of circumstances in some places. I think there could have been a bit of improvement here and there, but otherwise, I actually quite enjoy this one. In fact, there was a time where I would have taken this over both previous Silurian and Sea Devil stories. Not the case now, but that was when I was getting into Doctor Who. I was about 11 when I got that box set of DVDs, those 3 stories. It wasn't the first time I'd seen Classic Who, but it was the start of collecting the DVDs and watching every story and so forth. That's where it all started. Back in late 2010 when I got that box set, and then from late 2011 and 2012 started to get more Classic Who. As for the rest of the season, The Awakening's very good. I recommend watching the Whoniversals video by former member Robert Morrison about this story. Frontiers is also pretty good. Resurrection of the Daleks is really good, though with an extremely high kill count, some of it very unnecessary. Yeah, about this time in the show, Eric Saywood decided that there needed to be very high body counts in a couple of the stories. it is a good Dalek story, but I think the best of the 80s Dalek stories was yet to come. And I'm not talking about Revelation. Surprisingly, Eric Saward didn't think he handled the Daleks justice in Resurrection, but I think they were better handled in Revelation. I think that was more of a Davros story than this one, which was a Davros Dalek story. The other 80s Dalek story, which we will get to, is definitely more of a Dalek story. Anyway, moving on, Planet of Fire is very good. I think that one's quite underrated. Not many people really talk about it, or if they do, not really as a favourite of the season. It's a very good start for Perry, good exit for Turlough, and if it was to be the Master's last story, it would have been a good one for him to go out of. Of course, he doesn't leave with that story. But once again, there is a single standout story that outshines all the rest, and as great as the rest of the season was, apart from Twin Dilemma and Warriors of the Deep, but besides those two, as great as the other stories of Season 1 were, The Caves of Androzani is a masterpiece. This is such a great story. Believe the hype, people. This is so good. This is such a great story. Robert Holmes' big return after about 8 years away after Power of Kroll, which was late 78, early 79, and after having his 20th anniversary scripts turned down for 1983's 20th anniversary, he comes back with a vengeance with this magnificent final outing for the Fifth Doctor. This is Peter Davison's finest performance in the show, and it's also the basis of what the character would be in his Big Finish run. And whilst I do prefer Earthshock, and even more so the Five Doctors to this one, it is still a really strong outing for the Fifth Doctor. In fact, if I say personally it's my third favourite, but objectively, it's possibly the strongest. This is such a good story. The camaraderie he has with Perry, even though they've only just met, well, in the TV series continuity, if you go to Big Finish, they're friends for ages. And yeah, you could look at it as either this guy who's only just met this girl and he's trying to save her because it's the right thing to do, or it's these friends who have been with each other a while. They had another friend join them for a while as well, and now he's trying to rescue his friend that he's known for a bit. Either way you look at it, it's still a heroic, and it's possibly the most heroic the Doctor's ever been, arguably, question mark. Definitely for the classic series, at least. It is so good, and it pretty much paints the Fifth Doctor in such a heroic manner. It's a shame he didn't get more moments like this across his tenure. However, it also serves as a very good conclusion to his arc of how he wasn't very good to standing up to people, how he was quite quiet, he didn't have the same authority as his predecessors or his successor, or many of his successors, and yeah, he seemed to be less of a competent or confrontational Doctor as some of his other incarnations, or stand up to authority, etc. And he kept losing a lot of people. There was a lot of people left dead. Again, going back to the Eric Saward body count stuff in this season, and his era was full of people going because they had enough of it. Tegan left because she was sick of all the death and destruction. Nyssa had to go to help some other people. Turlough left to be with his own people. And of course, Adric and Comedian died. He's also thought the Master died in the last story. And he left an underwater base full of dead Silurian, Sea Devil and human bodies and Warriors of the Deep. Even that story has some sort of impact on his arc. And if you take out the Big Finish stories with him, Perry, and especially with Erimem, as great as many of them are, and I love Erimem, but take those out and you've just got the Fifth Doctor and Perry he's only just met in the last story, and he's now just trying to save her, because he doesn't even know her that well, but she's his new friend and he's trying to save her, to quote Mr. TARDIS, because it's the right thing to do. This is why I think this might be the Doctor's most heroic episodes, as the Fifth Doctor basically sacrifices himself, not by getting in the way of anything, just by giving his friend the only amount of medicine they need after they're poisoned, and accepts a fate where he may not survive the next regeneration until he's persuaded by his friends and the Master to, well, kind of, in the Master's case, to continue living and continue being the Doctor. Even if the next incarnation had a bit of a rocky start, the Sixth Doctor will continue the Fifth Doctor's legacy. And to give the Sixth Doctor's era a round off on this list, as rocky of a start as he had with the Twin Dilemma in early season 21, character-wise and also story-wise in the Twin Dilemma's case, he would continue the legacy of being the Doctor, possibly the wisest. Billy Tracy argued in 2013 that the Sixth Doctor possibly could be the wisest Doctor of them all. Maybe. He certainly was a bit more fierce and confrontational than Five, and certainly stood up to people more. But he's definitely needed to mellow out a little bit. But the stage was set for the new Sixth Doctor's era, and the Fifth Doctor was rounded off in a fantastic final adventure, preceded by a mostly brilliant final season. Season 21 is 82. Season 21 proves that 82 can be brilliant. Number 12. And so can the next season, the 25th anniversary season, Season 25. Sylvester McCoy's second season as the Seventh Doctor, airing in 1988 through 89. Oh, and also Season 21 was 1984, by the way. Again, another season that proves how good 82 really was. For me, there isn't a bad story in this season. The Silver Nemesis is actually good, I think. I think that's good. It's the weakest of the season, but I think it's pretty good. Happiness Patrol is very good. That's a very good commentary on Margaret Thatcher's time as Prime Minister. I thought that was a very good story, and I'm glad to see that one getting quite popular with the fans more over time. Greatest Show in the Galaxy is a very popular story with the fans. That is a very good one. In fact, this and my personal favourite story of this season is one of the most popular Seventh Doctor stories that's not from Season 26. However, in my hand right here is the DVD, the special edition DVD to be precise, for the absolute greatest Doctor Who story ever made, besides The Day of the Doctor. Remembrance of the fucking awesome Daleks. This is Classic Who's greatest 4-part story. Well, I say 4 parts because it's the greatest story. So the four episodes, the greatest 4 episodes, the greatest story ever made. Well, it's the Classic Who, and then if I took the whole show into account, the second best, because I'm a Day of the Doctor fan. This story is outstanding. This is beautiful. Oh my god, I love this story. I've loved this for almost 12 years since I got... This was my 4th DVD of the classic range after the Beneath the Surface box set. This was so... I count the Beneath the Surface stories individually. If I was counting each story individually, then Beneath the Surface counts as 3. So this is my 4th DVD, the special edition specifically. I did get the original later down the line as well, but the special edition was my 4th DVD. It's the first 7th Doctor story I watched, and it was outstanding, and I've loved it ever since. This is so good. Until The Day of the Doctor aired, this was my favourite story of all time. This is such an amazing story. I love, love, love Remembrance of the Daleks. It is so good, so amazing, and in my opinion, this is the MPV story of not just Season 25, not just Sylvester McCoy's tenure, not just the 1980s, but the entirety of Classic Who. It is so fucking amazing. I am so looking forward to seeing this one being at least top 3 of the Doctor Who Sylvester McCoy stories ranking poll for Doctor Who Magazine 2023. Top 3 at least. I would say number 1, but Curse of Fenric's gotten very popular in the last couple of years as well. So maybe 2 or 3, but I'm expecting top 3 at least, guys. If not number 1, but since Curse of Fenric's gotten very popular recently, maybe 2 or 3, but certainly top 3. I would be super surprised if it didn't go into at least top 3. Also, this is the season where the 7th Doctor, whilst having some elements of it in 24, starts to get more darker and mysterious, as well as kind of toning down the comedic and funny side that season had, but it's still there in some places before it's mostly gone in the next season. 25 is the transition between the lighter-hearted but with some signs of darkness Season 24 7th Doctor and the dark, manipulative Season 26 7th Doctor. As for Season 27, I'm not sure what that would have done. Maybe just carry on stuff from 26, maybe put a bit more light-heartedness in like 25 had. But since that didn't get made, we won't know. Big Finish seemed to have doubled down on the dark and manipulative side of the character. But yeah, Season 25's 7th Doctor portrayal was great. It's a step up from 24's, but even then, that was showing signs of where the character was going later on down the line. After all, we are in the Andrew Cartmel master plan. And the relationship with Ace is really great. I wasn't really a fan of Ace in Dragonfire. After Dragonfire, she is one of the greatest companions of the show. So great. And Remembrance of the Daleks just instantly kicks that off. It's so great. Loved Ace from the second I first saw her on screen in this episode. And that was before I saw Dragonfire. Which is why I believe whilst I'm not a fan of her in Dragonfire, after Dragonfire, nothing but love. Nothing but admiration. Nothing but adoreness. One of the greatest companions of the show. And the relationship in this season is so good. It's going to get even better next season, but this is such a great level. If I counted this as an anniversary series, this is the best anniversary season of the show. Sorry, Season 10 lovers. Sorry, Season 20 lovers. Sorry, Series 7 lovers. But Series 14 hasn't aired yet, so that one might be better. So we'll see how that goes. But right now, out of the anniversary series so far of Seasons 10 and 25 and 20 for Classic Who, and Series 7 for New Who, Season 25 is my favourite anniversary series. Number 11. So 2 placements ago we just had Season 21, which was one of the 2 seasons where you've got 2 Doctors in the same season. That one you've got the 5th Doctor for 6 out of the 7 stories, and then the 6th Doctor you've got for the final one. This next season has a Doctor for the first 2 of its 9 stories, and then the remaining 7 is with the new Doctor, and it's technically counted as one of their series, and the other one just kind of joins in for a little bit. Like Season 21 was a 5th Doctor season with a bit of 6. This next season is the 2nd Doctor season with a bit of 1st at the start. And that is, of course, Season 4. Season 4, airing in 1966 to 67, featuring, and is the first season to feature the 2nd Doctor, with a few episodes at the start featuring the 1st Doctor to round off his era, before William Hartnell passed on the mantle of the Doctor to Patrick Troughton. Also, as I mentioned in the introduction video, I'm using the Power to Daleks Special Edition DVD in placement of The Smugglers, as The Smugglers hasn't been released on DVD yet. So this is the only season to feature a DVD from a story later in the season than The Smugglers. And like I said, I decided to use this one instead of The 10th Planet, the next story, because I wanted more Patrick Troughton representation. If The Smugglers is getting animated for this year, then next time I'll use that on an updated ranking. Anyway, Season 4. Season 4 is so good. After Season 3 was a bit all over the place, Season 4 kind of got itself a bit more focused on some stuff. The Smugglers is a decent opener. I mean, it's not great, but it's fun, enjoyable in places. It's got some good moments. I might like it more if it does get animated and released on DVD and Blu-ray, but until then I just think it's decent. I do recommend checking out fellow Whoniversal member Benny Windybank's review of this story on the Whoniversals channel. The 10th Planet is a brilliant send-off for William Hartnell's Doctor, even if he does sleep through most of this, but this is due to Hartnell's health. And it's such a shame that the 10th Planet is missing its last episode, the very last episode, and the Power to Daleks is completely missing, because that's the last episode for William Hartnell and the first 6 of Patrick Troughton. The holy grail of missing episodes is the 10th Planet Part 4, with the Power to Daleks Part 1 probably a close second. The 10th Planet Part 4 is the episode fans want back the most, and I completely agree. I want this episode and Power to Daleks Part 1 back the most. I'd love to have the Daleks Master Plan back as a whole story the most, but individual episodes, 10th Planet Part 4 and Power of the Daleks Part 1, so we can see the last ever episode of William Hartnell's First Doctor and the first ever episode of Patrick Troughton's Second Doctor. And then my next most wanted 5 episodes are the rest of Power of the Daleks. Even though we got animations of these missing episodes, it would still be so good. Speaking of Power of the Daleks, fantastic opener for Patrick Troughton. That is such a good story. Believe the hype, it's really good. It's not my favourite of the series, though. Another Dalek story from this season is my favourite, but more on that at the end. The Highlanders is a good introduction to Jamie, and this will be a fun one to see back. This will be the last story of Season 4 to be found or animated if the Smugglers and the Underwater Menace do get their animations later this year. Sadly, this story, along with the Smugglers and the Power of the Daleks, is completely missing. The Underwater Menace is next, and luckily that one has still got 2 episodes left. Unfortunately, the reconstruction for the 2015 DVD of the other 2 was terrible. Which is a shame because the people making that would have put in the effort to make it really good for free, but the BBC or some other high-up said, nah, release this work print version, it'll be fine. Ugh, they just wanted to get this DVD out, didn't they? Oh dear. Hopefully the new special edition release will be much better. Next up we have the Moonbase, which is a really great Cyberman story, and it's a great way to bring them back after the 10th planet. Then we got the Macra Terror, which soared in popularity after its animation story. I'm personally not a fan of this story, but I know many people are. Again, like the Romans. And the animation is probably... And the animation of this story and one of the other 2 animated stories following this one are the peak of Doctor Who missing episodes animations. So, I may not be a fan of this story, but unlike Reign of Terror, I at least love the animation of the missing episodes. So, yeah, Faceless Ones comes next, and that one's still got 2 surviving episodes, but it has a very good animation for remake for all 6 episodes. Not as good as Macra Terror or the next story, but it's still very good. We're still the same people making these 3 stories, Macra, Faceless, and the last one, The Evil of the Daleks, which is, along with Macra, the best animated episodes, and is also my favourite story of the season. But these 3 stories have the best animations for Doctor Who missing episodes. I also love the ones for the Invasion as well, but these 3 are a trilogy of fantastic animations back to back. If you watch the Faceless Ones in the full animation version, black or white or colour, if you watch all 6 animated episodes, you have got 17 fantastically animated, for the most part, in the case of the Faceless Ones, back to back. Though, like I said, I don't think the Faceless Ones' animation is quite as good as the other 2. Story is really good, though. That's a very good story. Evil of the Daleks is a fantastic story. Bit long, maybe it could have been 6 parts. And there's a bit of a weird subplot with this guy who's going to marry the daughter of one of the main villains. There's a few odd subplots here that could have been cut to make this a 6-parter, but overall, it's still a fantastic conclusion to the season, and ends off the Daleks in the 60s on a very strong note. The last fantastic Dalek story until the mid-70s. And the last Dalek story full stop until 1972. William Hartnell does a really great job in his final 8 episodes as the First Doctor, and it's really nice with his relationship with Ben and Polly, but it's really Patrick Troughton who stands out as the MPV of this season. He had the hardest job out of anyone, replacing the beloved William Hartnell. Hartnell at least just helped create the character. Troughton had to make sure the character could survive without Hartnell. And oh boy, did he succeed. Again, I recommend watching a channel on the Universals, this time by current member Matt Moyer, who did a video about how Patrick Troughton saved Doctor Who for Troughton Month last year. And yeah, Patrick Troughton basically was the reason why Doctor Who continued past 1966. He was such a success, the show continued for another 2 seasons before he decided to go. Again, that's why they were thinking about ending it with season 6 until they decided to give it one more season with Jon Pertwee's Third Doctor to see how it goes, and then the rest is history. It's also worth noting that Fraser Hines' Jamie is also bloody brilliant as early as his very first story. Granted, he was thrown back into the TARDIS mix afterwards, so the next 2 stories have to try and get him in there somehow, but from the Macra Terror onwards, he really comes into his own, and he's definitely a staple of the second Doctor's tenure by the end of the season and beyond. Jamie's awesome. Overall, season 4 is a brilliant season. A little bit of ups and downs in there, but overall really great. The only downside is that there's no complete story this season of all surviving episodes. Every single one has at least one missing episode. Smugglers is completely gone and not animated. Power the Daleks is completely gone. You have to watch the animation. Highlanders, same as the Smugglers. Underwater Menace has 2 missing episodes, and until the 2 animated episodes come along for that one, now you got the shitty reconstruction on the other DVD to watch for those 2, or go without, or watch a fan one. Moonless has 2 missing episodes that have been animated. Macroterror is completely missing and has been animated. That's all 4 episodes of that. Power's 6. Faceless One has 4 missing episodes out of 6, and Evil 6 out of 7. And all of those have been animated, as well as the ones that still survive. The closest one to being complete is The 10th Planet, with 3 episodes surviving out of 4. Every story of Season 4, in terms of the original episodes, is still incomplete. So it's a good job we have these really great animations to fill in the gaps, or really great fan reconstructions. I would say the BBC official reconstructions, but not for the Underwater Menace's 2 missing episodes. The Smugglers and the Underwater Menace are rumoured / sort of kind of confirmed to be getting animations of their episodes later this year. The Smugglers will be every episode. The Underwater Menace, we don't know if it's just the 2 missing ones or if it's going to be all 4 episodes as well, like with Faceless Ones and Evil and also Abominable Snowmen in Season 5. But if they're happening, I look forward to seeing those released and watching the new animations of those 2 stories. This receives the Highlanders, the Wheel in Space, and the Space Pirates as the last 3 Patrick Troughton stories to be animated or part animated and to be officially released on DVD and or Blu-ray. And then after that you've got Marco Polo and a lot of Season 3s to deal with. I would also say The Crusade, but I don't know if they do that one. Number 10. So we're into top 10 territory now, and we start off with the best series of the new series produced by Steven Moffat. And the best series not to be produced by Russell T Davies. Series 5. Series 5, or Season 31, broadcasting in 2010. Series 5, man. This is such a good season. You know, when David Tennant and Russell T Davies were confirmed to be leaving, the BBC almost cancelled the new series because they didn't think the show would be as popular without them. But they eventually saw sense and hired Steven Moffat as the new showrunner, and he hired Matt Smith to play the 11th Doctor. And that was probably his best decision. Well, that and Peter Capaldi's the 12th Doctor. Okay, one of his 2 best decisions as showrunner was the casting of Matt Smith and Peter Capaldi as the 11th and 12th Doctors, after owning John Hurt as the War Doctor's 3rd. But Steven Moffat, Matt Smith and the crew behind Series 5 knew that this series had to be brilliant if they were going to convince the public and the fans to continue watching after RTD and Tennant had left. And they did it in spectacular style. Series 5 is so good. I don't even know how to describe it. This was a joyful season to watch, both when it aired and both later on now. I was 10 and 11 when this series aired. 2010, yeah. I was 10, then 11. I turned 11 the day before Hungry Earth aired. My childhood consisted of David Tennant, Matt Smith, and early Peter Capaldi, if I include teenage years as childhood, for Doctor Who, for the new episodes being broadcast. Of course, I then went back to watch Classic Who, especially when I was a teenager, and even more so when there was much of the new ones on. So yeah, trying to experience as much of Who as I could before I was 18 or 19. Series 3 to the 50th anniversary was the peak of my love for the show in my younger years. And whilst I'm still a major fan now, this is probably the high point. Series 3 through to the 50th anniversary were the high point of my younger self's love for the show. Certainly for the modern series, at least. And then my love for the classic series would then start sparking afterwards, or at least towards the end of this peak of a new series, the classic series peak would begin as well. So Series 5 comes at the height of that, but even rewatching it all these years later, it's still an extremely strong series. We got the best ever first story for a Doctor with the 11th Hour kicking off the season. It does tip a little bit with the Beast Below, which is probably the weakest of the season, but then you got Victory of the Daleks, which is good. Yeah, those Paradigm Daleks do stand around not doing much for a while, but they still look pretty cool. I like the Paradigm Daleks. I don't care what anyone else says. I like them. It's just a shame they didn't get much to do. Otherwise maybe more people would have liked them at the time. Time of the Angels and Flesh and Stone is a very good Weeping Angel story, even if it does suck some of the mystique out in places, like the turning of the heads was a bit silly for the angels. But things get back on track with Vampires of Venice. That was a very good one. Amy's Choice is a really, really good one. And it's taken me a bit of time to appreciate this one, but Hungry Earth and Cold Blood is also very good. Hungry Earth more so. Definitely the better version of this type of story than what Rebel Flesh Almost people tried to do. Vincent and the Doctor. Oh god, that one is just... Dave the Doctor is my favourite Matt Smith episode. As I said, it's my favourite of all time. And I gushed over the 11th Hour, but... Vincent and the Doctor, man. Oh my god, this one is... This is what Can You Hear Me and Kinder were trying to do and didn't quite succeed in the terms of the whole mental health side. Well, I'm guessing Kinder tried to do that. I'm not exactly sure what else it was trying to do with the whole guy going a bit crazy kind of aspect, but it's definitely... Can You Hear Me tried to do this, and fair enough, it did it well, but I think this one is pretty much perfect. Yeah, wow. Oh god, Vincent and the Doctor, this is one of the greatest episodes of not just the 11th Doctor's tenure, but possibly the new series, if not the whole show. Wow. I know I've been saying that a lot of stories, and there's a lot of fantastic ones, but yeah. Wow, this is definitely the best story of Series 5, Season 31. It is so good. The Lodger provides much needed laughs afterwards. Yeah, it's not amazing, but again, after the cry fest of the previous episode, it's good to have a bit of a chuckle now and again. And then we got the awesome finale, the Pandora Opens and the Big Bang, which pretty much is a soft reboot for the universe. And it's awesome. It's awesome. This is Moffat's second best finale after his Series 10 one, and one of the best ones of the new series. Maybe third or fourth, maybe. The arc for this series is the cracks in time, but also Amy's love and appreciation of her imaginary friend, who turns out to be real, and the relationship between her, the Doctor, and also with Rory, and in a few episodes with River Song, some of which will continue into the next series. And it's all really great. Amy is a flawed character, so the Doctor tries to fix her and make sure she gets with Rory, and it's all handled really well. Rory's a bit of a bumbling buffoon to begin with, but then he starts growing into a more macho man, and next series we're going to see a lot more of that. Even if they do overplay his deaths after Series 5. Like, he has 2 impactful deaths in Series 5 that work really well. I suppose 3 if you count the reboot of the universe, but then afterwards it becomes a bit of a joke. So, yeah, but that's Series 6 and 7's fault, not Series 5. And, yeah, the relationships across all 3 characters and their growth and dynamics and characterizations. Oh, it's so perfect. Matt Smith, despite in early days, delivers some really great performances earlier on, and he grows even better over the course of the series. Many people's problems with the 11th Doctor will come later on down the line when he acts more childish and or, well, let's say in Series 7 Part 2, he seems to have a bit of a thing for sexualizing some female characters. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on with that. But Series 5 11th Doctor is perfect, in my opinion. Especially later on, although I did really like the earlier ones. But that's because the earlier ones were kind of written for generic Doctor, and Smith was still finding his feet. But midway through the series, we're at peak 11th Doctor. This also continues into most of Series 6 as well, but still... This is so good. Nostalgia may be playing a big part here, but Series 5 continues to be one of my personal favourite series of Doctor Who. And it's not going to be the only one from this period of my love for the show in my younger days that's going to come this high on the list. We've still got 3 more series from RTD's first run to mention, 2 of which aired during the peak of my younger self's love of the show. Number 9. And it looks like new series ending with a multiple of 5 seem to be placed around a similar spot to a classic series with the same number, as next on my list is Season 5. Patrick Troughton's second season as the Second Doctor, airing from 1967 to 1968. Oh yeah, Series 5 was Matt Smith's first, if I didn't mention that. That's the 11th Doctor. And yeah, like Season 10 and Series 10, Season 5 and Series 5 are pretty much next to each other. This time the classic series tops the new Series 1 of the same number. Also, shout out to my friend and fellow Whoniversals member Will Maddox, as this is his favourite season of Doctor Who. Which makes sense because it features Daddy Patty Tratty. Mega based. Season 5, this is so good. The only one that's not very good is the Ice Warriors. That one is pretty bad. Womb Space is okay. The rest of it is really, really good. Abominable Snowmen is really great. Do check out the recent animation that came out in September last year. Fury from the Deep, which got an animation 2 years prior, is also really good. And that animation made me love that story. Otherwise I would have just said that was also just an okay story as well. But now I love that story. I think I had the opposite effect on that one than most people, because not as many people enjoyed that animation. Also, my newfound love for Fury from the Deep is something similar to what many fans had for Macra when it got animated, or Enemy of the World from this season, when all of those episodes got found. Speaking of which, Enemy of the World is fucking amazing. That is such a great season. It would be my number 1 of the season if it wasn't for one-off story that I'm going to come back to. And Web of Fear is also fantastic. Shame about this animated 3rd episode. Like, it was like we were holding out for that 3rd episode being found after all. But if not, then okay, well, an animated episode then. I mean, the reconstruction episode we had back in 2014 was good, but yeah, an animated episode, great. It's just a shame that they chose that style and it just didn't work out. Oh, it looks so bad. But even with that episode having terrible animation, I also have a bit of a newfound more enjoyability of that story after rewatching that with the animated episode, even if the animation was terrible. But the best story of Season 5 and the best story of the 1960s and the Patrick Troughton era is The Tomb of the Cybermen. This is perfect. Apart from the sexism and racism, but we can put that down to people's opinions and how they acted at the time. It's just a shame it's this story they had to put it in. Ugh. The greatest story of the decade, and they put the racist and sexist elements in this one. Fuck off! But hey, the rest of it's fantastic. Oh, this is the best Cyberman story ever, I guess. I think, yeah, I would say it's the best Cyberman story ever. I mean, Earthshock's a very close second, but this is so fucking good. This is so amazing. Patrick Troughton is also at his absolute best in that scene from Part 3 where he talks to Victoria about his family and how her father and how he's gone. She's missing him, and then they talk about that family. That one still makes me choke. I'm joking up just talking about it. That scene is possibly the best scene of the episode. As great as most of the rest of it is so fucking amazing. I would recommend checking out my Retro Channel review on this episode, this story, back from 2019. But I'm instead going to recommend checking out my more recent Whoniversals review of the story for Troughton Month that I did last September, as it's a more up-to-date opinion of the story, and I'm providing some of my 2 cents on loving the Second Doctor, which many of us on Whoniversals, if not almost all of us, do. Daddy Patty Tratty is based, man. Based! And so is this season. Except the Ice Warriors, that's shit. Number 8. Okay, it was very tough to decide which one of this and my number 7 spot should be at which spot. It was kind of an and ah, even more so than Series 6 and Season 9? Yeah, Series 6 and Season 9 at 24 and 23. Which one do I prefer out of these two? Because these ones, and 23 and 24, were the hardest ones to differentiate. And I think I eventually settled on... I think this one objectively would have been better, but on personal level, I think I would have to give it to the other one. That's why that one's gone to number 7, and this one has gone to number 8. And these are 2 of the 3 Philip Hinchcliffe, Tom Baker golden seasons of the classic series. And this one is Season 14. Airing from 1976 to 1977, this is Tom Baker's 3rd series, and basically the peak of classic Who for many fans, and the last one produced by Philip Hinchcliffe. Also, shout out to my friend Jack McCulloch, as this is his favourite season, and The Deadly Assassin is his favourite story, and the 4th Doctor, played by Tom Baker, is his favourite Doctor. As for me, Season 14 is brilliant, but I think I prefer Seasons 12 and 13, because there's more stories in those seasons that I prefer, like number-wise. For me, Season 14 is possibly the weakest of the 3 stories, just because of the inclusion of the Mask of Mandragora, the story I was just holding, and the Face of Evil are just good. I didn't used to be that fan of the Face of Evil either, but my opinion of that has gone up in a bit. However, the Hand of Evil is really good. That is a very good story, and a great way to send off Sarah Jane Smith. The Ropes of Death is a very popular story, and even was selected to be one to be archived in the National Archives or something. It's a good one. It's a very good one. Very good. Good murder mystery, but with a sci-fi twist and aliens. But I don't think it's entirely perfect. Also, what's up with that guy just shouting "shut up" at the Doctor and throwing his jelly babies out of his hands? The direction of that just felt a bit stinted. The Doctor was eating his jelly babies, offered it around, and there was a second pause, and then he just shouted at him and threw it out in the air. What the hell? Seriously, I never got that. What the fuck? Like, even if they don't trust the Doctor, what was the whole outburst? And why did they wait until he offered the jelly babies? And why was there an awkward pause? Even if it was only for a second. I never got that. But the murder mystery angle is still really good. What defines Season 14 are the 2 episodes written by script editor Robert Holmes that form the middle story and the final story. The Deadly Assassin, which as I mentioned is Jack McCulloch's favourite episode of the show, and yeah, this is the best one of the season. And also the Talons of Weng-Chiang, which is the 2nd best of the season. These are brilliant, apart from the racism in Talons of Weng-Chiang. Robert Holmes, what the fuck? But other than that, these are fantastic episodes. The Deadly Assassin does change some of what we know about the Doctor from before, but fuck it. When has Doctor Who cared about continuity? It's a really great story, and brings back the Master really well. It's just a shame the Master didn't turn up again for another 5 years. Well, 4.5 if we're doing dates-wise, and 4 seasons if we're doing season-wise. But yeah, 4 seasons till he came back. Yeah, the Tom Baker era didn't really bring back villains that much. Each season would bring back 1, apart from season 16, and 13 actually. Season 12 probably had the most, and then season 18 had some more Master stories at the end. But yeah, they didn't really bring back returning villains that much in Tom Baker's run. At least they brought in a lot of great new ones though. Talons of Weng-Chiang is also a really great finale, and is one of the strongest 6-part season finales of the Tom Baker era, if not the strongest. It is a very good one, and rounds off the season very well. It's just a shame about the racism. Madness Steel Grill's a great villain though. It also introduces Jago and Lightfoot, aka those guys who got Big Finish's longest running spin-off series after Bernie Summerfield. That's right, Jago and Lightfoot started here. Around 2010, Big Finish made a spin-off box set series about them, and the rest is history. Like I said, after Bernie Summerfield, it's probably the 2nd longest running spin-off of Doctor Who made by Big Finish. Overall, Season 14 is brilliant, and it's the conclusion of the Tom Baker, Philip Hinchcliffe golden era of the classic show. But controversial opinion alert, but I think Seasons 12 and 13 were even better. And one of them is next. Number 7. And this is, of course, Season 12. Season 12 is Tom Baker's first season as the Fourth Doctor. It kicks off his 7-series stint as the Fourth Doctor and is the first of Philip Hinchcliffe's run as the producer, well, excluding Robot, which is produced by Barry Letts. Then again, Barry Letts didn't produce the first story, John Pertwee. That was Derek Sherwin, so yeah, I think that's fair. Robot is a great introduction to Tom Baker's Doctor, and rough and running very soon into the story. It doesn't take as much time as many of the other Doctors, past or future, to get going. Maybe. I mean, I thought Matt Smith might be the one who got into the character straight away, but Tom Baker's Doctor is probably the one who's up and running straight away. So, yeah. Well, let's say it's Tom Baker and Matt Smith. They're the ones who get into the roles really quickly, and fastest out of anybody, I think. Then again, we'll see how David Tennant's 14th Doctor goes as well. Of course, this includes William Hartnell's first, because he was already in that body when we met him. But he also had to get some time to develop the character as well. With Tom Baker and Matt Smith, we were up and running straight away. Same thing for William Hartnell applies for Chris Braxton as well, by the way. But in terms of the post-regeneration, Tom Baker and Matt Smith. Maybe David Tennant as the 14th Doctor as well. So we'll see how that goes. Following Robot is the outstanding The Ark in Space, which, you know, I don't care what Genesis fans say, this is the best story of the season. I fucking adore The Ark in Space. Second best Tom Baker story after City of Death. Magnificent. But Genesis of the Daleks is also fantastic as well, and that will go third on my Fourth Doctor stories ranking. That one does have a reputation for a reason. It took me a bit of time to agree with that. I did still like it, but I did love it as much as everybody else. Now, I love it. I just don't think it's the greatest story ever made. Or, of course, as I've already mentioned. But, heck, I even prefer one other story in this season to it. But yeah, it's fantastic. And the Sontaran Experiment is also a nice little two-parter story. This was nice. The only story in this season that doesn't work is Revenge of the Cybermen. Robert Holmes apparently took Jerry Davis's original script and again rewrote it. What is it with the script writers and rewriting people's scripts in the Tom Baker era, and they aren't very good? The exception of Pyramids of Mars and Brain and Morbius next season, but apart from them, God. Although I hear that Davis's original version wasn't that much better, with the people who've listened to the Big Finish version of that story, the Big Finish Lost Stories adaptation, apparently have said it's not that much better. But still, what is it with Tom Baker era script editors taking a writer's script and making it worse? Apart from in Season 13. Overall, Season 12 is a very good start to the Tom Baker and Philip Hinchcliffe eras of the show, and the start of the classic series' golden age, apart from Revenge of the Cybermen. No wonder this season was chosen to be the first one released on Blu-ray when they did the collection box sets starting in summer 2018 with this magnificent season. I still think The Ark in Space is better than Genesis of the Daleks though. But all of the stories in this season are great, apart from Revenge of the Cybermen. Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the Nicholas Payne YouTube channel.